if you're the person that takes notes, if you're one of those that takes notes, I hope you are, because I put a lot of work into this one. But I pray that you will take some notes. And the title of this message is Jesus, our healer. Jesus, our healer. So I hope you're taking notes, because today I want to speak to you about healing. Now, can I ask you a question? I love you, Leper. You're always so supportive. I like it. Thank you. I love you. Now, I want to ask you a question, okay? Now, who here loves the promises of God? Put your hand up if you do. Awesome. I think majority of us will say that we love the promises of God. We love the fact that God has given His people promises. That God loves us so much that apart from giving us salvation, He's given us plenty of promises. I love the promise of salvation, the promise of provision, the promise of protection, the promise of strength, guidance, peace, comfort, fruitfulness, expansion. I love the promises of God. You see, I've been a Christian for around 10 years and a half, right? Someone that has been committed to this life of following Jesus for that long. And I've loved the promises of God. But can I be honest with you? Is that okay? Is this a safe spot? Now, I hope you online are also a safe spot now. Now, I hope this is a bit of a safe spot, because I want to be honest with you. There was one promise that I struggled with. I know you will never struggle with any promises of God. Like, I know you guys are perfect here at the Hills campus at Maryland's. We do a lot of work there, you know. But I love my Maryland's crew. Where are my Maryland's guys at? There we go. But here's the thing, right? I struggle with one. The reason why I struggle with one is because it was something that my experience had to do with it, right? Like, I was praying and I didn't see things happening, and I was like, God, but you said you would do this, and I will keep believing and things wouldn't happen. And what happened, instead of lifting up my expectation to the level of the promises of God, I started bringing my experience, and I was like, my faith started going down to the level of my experience. And I started saying, God, maybe you don't live up to this promise. And the promise that I struggled with was the promise of healing. And you're probably wondering, Bryan, how are you going to speak to me about healing if you struggle with that promise? It's a very funny question. Let me tell you something. You see, I struggled with that promise for close to 9.5 years, until last year, June 2022. You see, June 2022, I had a dream, right? I had a dream. I'm not Martin Luther King. It's not like I had a dream, no, not like that. I was sleeping, right? I was asleep, and I had a dream. And I am not much of a dreamer while I'm sleeping, right? I have like random stuff happen, and I'm like, that was odd. But this one was like, it felt real, right? It felt real, and when I woke up, I'm like, something is different about this. Let me tell you the dream, right? I was walking through the most beautiful street of Sydney, right? The most luxurious street of the whole of Sydney, called Maryland's Road, okay? Now, if you've never been to Maryland's Road, I'll suggest you go. You get the best Afghani food in your life. But here's the thing. I was walking through Maryland's Road in this dream. I knew the place. I've been through this spot many times. And as I'm walking through this place, I had pamphlets in my hand, right? And I'm like, this is kind of odd. And I started going to shops. And I started going to their notice boards. And in their notice boards, I started putting these pamphlets on their notice boards. And as I started looking through the pamphlets, I noticed that the pamphlets said, Nights of Healing. Nights of Healing. Nights of Healing. And then I woke up. And the reason why it was odd is because I asked myself the question, God, why would you use someone that doesn't believe you can do this to promote this? It doesn't make sense to me. I have so many doubts around this. Why would you use me to do this? You should call Senga if you want to do a night of healing, you know. Call the man. He'll come with the more and he'll make it happen, you know. He'll make it happen. Call Chris Mendes, call Robert Ferguson, and they're people of healing, you know what I mean? Like, they'll believe God, but I was struggling. I wasn't sure. Now, a few weeks later, we had Hillsong Conference, and I got filled by the Holy Spirit in ways that I have never experienced before in my life. On this platform, I was literally there for 5 minutes. Gone, long gone. Ciao, Bryan. If you were here, you're laughing. But here's the thing, I was gone, and this had never happened to me. Some people go, oh, this happened to you often. You're Latino, you know. You guys dramatize everything. Not true. Some things we do, but not everything. I was raised Baptist, right? I was raised Baptist, so these things never happened to us, right? Like when I came for the first time to Hillsong Church and someone started speaking in tongues next to me, I'm like, where the heck did it come to, right? And then I learned more and more that the things of God are way beyond my understanding. And it filled me. It got me this desire of me wanting to know more of God. And a few weeks later, I found myself in a college chapel, a Hillsong College chapel. Any Hillsong College students here? That's awesome. Now, I found myself there, and this student comes to me, right? And he's like, Bryan, I think I have a word for you. And I'm like, look, you know what? I haven't had words in 2.5 years. It'll be a wonderful thing. I think I need it. And he comes and says this to me. He reads Matthew 10, verse 8. And it says this, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, and cast out devils. And I looked at him and I said, man, I think you came to the wrong dude. I'm not sure about what you're saying. I'm still struggling with it. And he says, this is what I feel God wants to say to you. A week later, this lady comes to me and she's like, Bryan, I think I have a word for you. And I'm like, 2 in a row, man, I'm on fire. And she comes and says, Bryan, I believe that God's going to use you, and He's going to use you in this area of healing. And I go, all right. 2? Okay. 2 weeks later, this random dude comes to me and says, hey, I have a word for you. And I looked at him and let me guess. And he said the exact same thing. And in that moment, I knew, okay, God, I'm listening. What do you want to do? A few weeks later, I get a text from a pastor I admire, and he's random text. He says, Bryan, I believe that you need to start praying for the sick at your campus and start believing that God will heal them. And this was August last year, right? And we, in August last year, started praying for people to get healed at our campus in Maryland. Every single Sunday, we've been allowing time to pray for the sick. And we've been believing God that He will heal them. Now, over the last 9 months, we've seen incredible healings. We've seen people with heart conditions that they show up to the doctor and the doctor looks at them and is like, there's no heart condition anymore. I know what happened. We've seen people that had conditions for years no longer have it. I have a friend that literally is here with me today, and he's had back pains for years, and the doctors told him, you're going to have surgery. And he went to the doctors, and the doctor just told him, you don't need surgery anymore. So you are on the recovery end. And we've been believing for healing, but in that process, in the last 9 months, I went from doubting to fully believing. To fully believing. I no longer doubt this promise. I fully believe this promise. And I'm here to tell you today that our God heals. That the God that you and I serve is a healer. That the God that you and I have given our lives can heal you, will heal you, because He's faithful to His promise. I don't know how you find yourself into this place. I don't know how you ended up here. I don't know, maybe someone brought you along. Maybe you've navigating some difficulties in your health. But in this miracle month of May, today I want to believe for the miracle of healing. I have faith for healing. I believe that God can heal you. I believe that God can do a mighty work in your life, friend. And I believe humbly. I'm not here telling you because I'm proud about it. I'm humbly telling you that He could literally use me to just remind you that He is our healer. Because I believe He will heal today. Some of you are already really getting the touch of God because He wants to heal you today. And I believe He will do something special today. You see, the enemy's plan is to steal, kill, and destroy. But if you know anything about the God that we serve, His plan is to give life and to restore our health. Over the last 2.5 years, we've navigated what would have not, I would say for all of us, a very difficult time when it comes to health. Sickness upon sickness upon sickness upon sickness. And some of us have gone, well, maybe that's just the way it is. Maybe that's my lot in life. But I'm here to tell you today, friend, that God does not put sickness upon His people. This is the enemy's work. And if the enemy thinks he's taking ground, well, let me tell you something. God's about to take greater ground. And we're going to see a revival of healing upon people. You've seen people sick. Well, let me tell you something. Let's believe for healing. Let's believe that our God is able to touch bodies, to restore bodies, to raise the dead, to literally completely heal the incurable in Jesus' mighty name. And today I want to teach you from 3 stories of 3 people in the Bible. Matthew 8. That I believe will be helpful for us. And I want to talk to you about 3 characters. And after that, I'm going to tell you 3 simple things that we can learn from these stories. But Matthew 8. Matthew 8 is actually a beautiful verse, and I love when I read through the whole thing. I will highly suggest you read through the majority of it. But let me give you some context before I read to you Matthew 8. You see, the context before Matthew 8 is that from Matthew 5, 6, and 7, Jesus has been preaching in a mountain. He's been preaching in this famous sermon called the Sermon on the Mount. Now, if you've been at church, you know the Sermon on the Mount. You know about the Sermon on the Mount. The Sermon on the Mount is probably the best sermon ever preached, hands down. And I'm going to prove it to you in a minute. But the best sermon ever, Jesus talks about parables. Jesus talks about the Lord's Prayer. Like plenty of us pray the Lord's Prayer, and it comes from the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus talks about the Beatitudes. Jesus talks about literally how God's laws work. Jesus just flips everything upside down in 3 chapters. 5, 6, and 7. It was so good. It was so good that literally the Bible tells us this in Matthew 8, verse 1. It says, when Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. Now, here's what I want you to understand. Now, I've been preaching for a few years. And in those years, I will say, if I can dare to say, there's maybe 1 or 2 sermons when I've gone, man, that was good. That was all right. You know, you didn't screw it up there, Bryan. You did a pretty good job, right? And in those 2, I've never had anyone follow me outside of church to go, keep talking, please. Never in my life, right? And if you do it now, it'd be a bit creepy, just letting you know. But here's the thing, it never happened. I've seen great preachers, but I'm like, they never follow them all the way out to see if they can keep talking. But these people follow Jesus. These people were so amazed that let's keep following him to see what he keeps talking. Jesus just delivered the greatest of sermons with great authority. But now, he didn't just show them words. He was about to show them power. I want to be the type of Christian that is just not words, but it's a Christian that has power. We have so many Christians, I'm just happy to have words, but we need the anointing of God. We need the power of God. It's not just walking around life saying to people, I'm a Christian, but it's ultimately believing that if God is for us, no one can be against us in Jesus' mighty name. In Jesus' mighty name. And I want to show you, sorry, I'm already excited. I'm already excited, but I want to read to you from Matthew 8 right now. So Matthew 8 verses 1 to 4, and we're going to study 3 characters in this moment. Matthew 8 verses 1 to 4 says this, when Jesus came down from the mountainside, large crowds followed him. A man with leprosy came and knelt before him and said, Lord, if you are willing, he said, you can make me clean. Jesus reached out his hand and touched the man. I am willing, he said, be clean. Immediately he was cleansed of his leprosy. Then Jesus said to him, see that you don't tell anyone, but go, show yourself to the priest and offer the gift Moses commanded as a testimony to them. The first character we're looking into is a leper. Is a leper, and here's what you gotta know. Like leprosy in that time was actually a terrible disease. It wasn't something that you wanted to have. It was actually deemed incurable. Nobody could cure it. And it meant that because you had leprosy, it also meant that you were unclean, which did not allow you to come and worship God with everybody else that was clean. So they will put you in another place. Sometimes they will even take them out of the city, right? Because they didn't want them around. And Jesus, as he's coming down from the mountain, what I love is that one of the first spots he goes by is where the people with leprosy are. Everybody would have gone, just don't go there, mate. You know, just keep walking. Don't go there. But Jesus goes by. And this man shouts, Jesus, if you're willing, can you make me clean? Now, I've learned this as I've read through scriptures. Jesus can heal this man by just saying the word. He could have just gone, stay there. Don't touch me. You're unclean, but you're clean now, right? He could have. He could have just said the word and he would have been clean. But Jesus does something that really challenged everyone around. He starts walking down the mountain and he says, be clean. And he touches the untouchable. I wonder how everybody around was thinking. I wonder when they saw him walking towards him, they were like, does he know the law? Does he know that the moment he touches him, he becomes unclean? But what they didn't know is that the clean was actually making the unclean now clean. There was no way this man was going to make Jesus unclean. Everything from that moment made this man clean. And what I love about this moment is this: Jesus, in this moment, is not just healing a man, but by touching him, he's restoring this man into community. You see, Jesus is restoring dignity to this man. He's taking shame off this man. He's saying, I love you enough, not just to heal you from a side, but I'm going to touch you so that everyone around me will know that you are welcome back. In this moment, Jesus is saying to him, shame is off you. Dignity is put back into you. What I've learned about sickness is that sickness sometimes can become part of our identity. If you've carried sickness for a long time, it becomes part of who you are. You go, well, this is just me. I'm the guy with cancer. It's just who I am. I'm the guy with leprosy. I'm the girl with this issue. It's just who I am. And what I've learned, friend, is that Jesus never looks at his children and goes, oh, there's my child sick. There's my sick children. No. The identity that he puts on you, he's like, that's my son. That's my daughter. And some of you today, you will not only be healed, but you will be restored into community. Shame will be put off you. Like literally, God will just take the shame and take it off you because you've carried it for such a long time. It's made you completely different. A sickness changed you. But today, our God that made you will completely transform you in Jesus' mighty name. And he touches this person with leprosy and he says, be cleaned. Today, I believe that some of you will feel the touch of God and you will be clean in Jesus' mighty name. The second person that we see that Jesus heals is actually the servant of the centurion. In Matthew 5, all the way to 11, and then we jump to 13, says this: when Jesus had entered Capernaum. Now, Jesus just walked down to the mountain, healed someone, and he just entered back into the city. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home paralyzed, suffering terribly. Jesus said to him, should I come and heal him? The centurion replied, Lord, I do not deserve to have you come under my roof, but just say the word and my servant will be healed. For I myself, I am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. I tell this one, go, and he goes, and that one, come, and he comes. I say to my servant, do this, and he does it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed and said to those following him, truly I tell you, I have not found anyone in Israel with such great faith. Verse 13 says, then Jesus said to the centurion, go, let it be done just as you believed it would. And his servant was healed at that moment. Now, I find this story quite awesome because the centurion comes to Jesus and says, would you heal my servant? But now the centurion is a better man than me. And let me explain to you why. If Jesus were to say to me, do you want me to come to your house? I would have said, of course. You forget about everything you're doing, come over to my house right now, right? I would have brought him in. I would have forgotten I had a servant sick, right? I would just brought Jesus in, put the best banquet, let's just have Jesus at the table. But the centurion says this to Jesus: you don't have to come. You don't have to come. Just say the word. If you say the word, I know it will be done. I know my servant will be healed. I'm here to tell you that some of you just need to hear a word from God. Some of you have been wanting to hear words from different people, but you just need to go into your knees and go to God and say, would you just say the word? And I'm going to stand strong in that word. I'm going to believe in that word. I'm going to stand and know that you are able to do what you say you will do. It is his word. The same word that created the universe is the same word that has the ability to heal you, friend. That same God that created the cosmos is the same God that can remove cancer from your body with just one word. And he's saying, would you believe me? I love the faith of the centurion because the centurion believed and he walked. He went back home. How do we know this man got healed? Because the centurion went back home. He didn't say, bring me the servant over to see if he got healed now. No, he just walked back. And in that walk, when he arrived, he went, oh, okay, it actually happened. Because he said it, I will believe it. My question to you, friend, is that, do you know the words that he said about you? Do you know the fact that the Bible tells us that it is by his stripes that we have been healed? Do you know that the Bible tells us that we will lay hands on the sick and they will be made well? Do you know that that's our promises? It's the promises of God. Healing is our portion. And what I love about this moment is that the centurion had faith for someone else. Maybe you're sitting in this room, and maybe the sick person is not in this room, but you are here. And you can have the faith of the centurion, where you come to Jesus and say, Jesus, if you said it, I'm going to believe it. I'm going to live it out. I'm going to believe that that person, wherever they find themselves, is going to be healed in Jesus' mighty name. Maybe today, it will be the beginning of people's healings that they're not even in this room. But because of your faith, they receive their healing. The servant of the centurion and the third person is Peter's mother-in-law. Peter's mother-in-law. You know it's a miracle when he heals a mother-in-law. I love my mother-in-law. I know, I love her. She's wonderful. I had to put that joke in there. But Matthew 8:14-15 says this. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand and the fever left her, and she got up and began to wait on him. Now, as I was reading through the other two, I was like, this is awesome because these people have faith. It was these people's faith that got their healing, right? They went to Jesus boldly and they received their healing. How wonderful. But as I kept reading and I saw this woman, I come to understand that she didn't ask for nothing. Nowhere in the story she comes and says, Jesus, heal me. I have faith for you to heal me. I'm going to believe that you will heal me. Nowhere in the story she says anything. The Bible tells us that Jesus walks in and sees her sick. And he touches her and heals her. As I was preparing this message, I was praying and I was asking God, how did this happen? Why did you do this? I thought it was faith that made you move. And I felt God asked me a question. And he says, son, if your son was sick and you had the power to heal him, even if he didn't ask you, would you heal him? And I said, of course I would heal him. He doesn't have to ask me. He's my son. And I felt God answering me saying, well, she was my daughter. I did what any loving father would do. I healed her. She knew Jesus. She loved Jesus. Jesus walks into the room and goes, you're healed. I love you. You're healed. I've learned through this story that I used to think it is my faith. It is my bold faith. You know, I'm not afraid of nothing. I'm just the man to have faith, to believe God for stuff that gets me healed. But then I've come to understand that no matter how much faith I have, I cannot heal no one. I cannot heal myself. I cannot heal anyone. We're going to pray for people. I'm going to pray for you with faith, but I cannot heal you. So don't put your faith in me. Don't put your faith that he has to pray for me. That's not true. I cannot heal you. But I've come to understand that it is the love of God that heals his people. You see, it is because Jesus loved Peter's mother-in-law, mothers-in-law, whatever you call it. Sorry, English second language. He loved her so much that he looks at her and says, daughter, you're healed. And she got up and kept going. And kept going. You see, friend, it is not all the level of faith as much as you think you have it all. No, it's not. It's his love that heals you. It's his grace, his kindness, his mercy towards us that just extends towards us and we receive our healing, Our job is to be like children. I love one of the things that my son has been doing lately. I don't know who taught him this, but the guy sees me and goes like this. And then he hugs me. I love it. I love it because every time I see him, I go like this now. Some of us, you've let your sickness go like this. I cannot ask. I cannot move. I cannot do anything. I'm a sick person. But I believe that God's saying to you, would you just open up your arms again? Like a child that trusts his father. And would you just run to me? Because I will run back to you. And I will do the miracle that you've been waiting for, not because of your faith, but because I love you. It is his love that heals us. You see, we see three people in this moment. We see the leper, we see the servant of the Centurion, and we see Peter's mother-in-law. But there's three key things I want you to take away from this message. Three simple things, and they're going to come up on the screen. But the first one is this, that no disease is greater than Jesus. If we can learn something from these three stories, that no disease is greater than Jesus. Leprosy was deemed incurable. Nobody could cure this thing. But the fever, it's a simple fever. So you're telling me he can cure the incurable and he can cure the common? He can. And he will. Don't think your sickness is too big for him. Just come to your Father. And don't think your sickness is too small for him. Just come to your Father. The second thing I want you to know about these three stories that we can learn is that Jesus can heal anyone. He can heal anyone. Doesn't matter if you're the richest of the richest or the poorest of the poorest, the highest of society or the lowest of society. Doesn't matter your color of skin, your background, your intelligence. He can touch anyone. Doesn't matter what you've done. Doesn't matter if you're a pastor or someone that just walked into the church for the first time. He can heal you, friend. He can heal you. He can touch you. He can say the word and you can be completely healed. And the third point that I want you to take away today, as the band comes up, is that healing is not found in a method. Healing is found in a person. And his name is Jesus. Healing is not found in a method. It's found in a person. And his name is Jesus. The reality is that if Jesus was not in the stories, in the three stories that I told you, these people would have kept being sick. And it wasn't a method. It's not that we're going to do this again. We're going to go, okay, I need to lay hands on people to see if they get healed. It's not the method, friend. It's not the words. It's ultimately Jesus. It's not what you do. But it's your reliance on Jesus and you go, Jesus, I cannot do this. I can say the things. I can touch the bodies. But if your power is not here, there is nothing I can do. It is your power, Jesus. Friend, today don't expect a method. I've been in meetings where people literally have been healed as they've been sitting down. Nobody touched them. But Jesus did. I'm going to ask you to come to receive prayer in a minute, but maybe you might not be touched by anyone. But can I say, don't lose faith. Don't lose hope, but go, Jesus, can you touch me? Can you touch me? I have faith that you can heal me. Friend, I'm here to tell you today that it's not a method. It's not a way of doing it, and we will try our best as humans. But it's our reliance upon Jesus Christ that has the ability to heal us, that has the ability to change us. And today, I personally have faith for healing. I know in the auditorium this big, there'll be plenty of people that you're believing God for healing. And here's what I've learned. Sometimes healing happens in the moment. But sometimes it's a journey. Sometimes it takes a journey. But it requires faith to go, if he said it, I'm going to walk in my healing. I'm going to believe him. I believe. And I believe, especially as a church, we're just scratching the surface. We're just scratching the surface of what God wants to do among us. And we cannot be complacent. We cannot hope, oh, it might happen for someone else. No, we got to come in full, expectant that God is able to move among us. God is able to do what He said He would do. Would you believe Him today, friend? Maybe you've been praying for a while and you've gone, I'm done with praying. This is my condition. Can I ask, would you believe Him again today? Would you believe Him again today? Would you step in faith today again? Would you trust Him again? Would you say, Lord, I doubted, I didn't think you can do it, but I'm here trusting you again, standing again. Don't let your faith go down to the level of your experience, friend, but bring your faith to the level of what God can do. In Jesus' mighty name. Can I get everybody to stand up? That'll be a wonderful thing.